In today's project, we are going to make a quick yet dashing card or insert spot for your journals by using just some scraps and an image for a focal point. Hello everyone, it's Madi from Spectrum Art Creations. The tutorial version is perfect for stationery as it is a quick version that can easily be mass made and it's perfect for mailing. It features a swivel, chipboard, brad closure that opens up to reveal your sentiments, your photos, your gift cards. It stands up to be displayed if you'd like for it to be so. And then it closes right back up. But looking at the inside, we see that we have different areas here where we can insert, for example, a photo, right? A photo of you, your kiddos. This just happens to be a beautiful vintage photograph that I have. And you can insert a photo on there. You can insert a sentiment, a poem. You can handwrite it if you like. It closes right back up. And then in the back, we have even more room. It lends itself for adding an additional pocket if you like to hold maybe like a personal letter. I grabbed this one over here. It is a gorgeous letter from 1921. Of course, this would be your own personal letter that you would be inserting into that pocket. Or you could also tuck it into the front as well. So your photo and your letter could be in the front and this could actually close. So lots of great ways to use that. Now, I've also made another version, which is not geared only towards, like this one is more stationery, mailing, letter writing, more of a greeting card. I've made a different version, which is, I think, more for journaling. So, and again, both of them can be used for journaling. But in this case, the second version features more pockets and tuck spots. So you can either insert it into your journals the way that it is, right, into a pocket, or you can also just adhere it on three sides and make this back into a nice large pocket as well behind it. So this one, again, we used scrap pieces of paper. Instead of a journaling card, what we've done here is we've used some of our Minty images and I've added glossy accents to the light bulb images so they look like glass. Now this one does not have a swivel chipboard brad closure. Instead, I used a paper clip closure. And that was just to kind of give you options and show you that if you do not have a brad or a piece of chipboard available, you can use your images and still be able to create the project. Now, once open, this one is the same way as the other one. The difference, of course, is that now we have a pocket in this one. Again, this one's more for journaling. Not to say you couldn't use it for, you know, sending your lovely bits to someone there or to keep your memorabilia as well. But you have the opportunity not only for a pocket, but to journal, add another placard here. Here's a fake credit card that we all get in the junk mail. You can insert a gift card if you're sending it to someone, and you can do that with either one of these. And on the back, I've made a double pocket with this one. So you have a pocket here in the front, as well as a large pocket here in the back. So as I mentioned, it has a lot of different pockets that you can use. And of course, you can always add more. But lots of journaling, because you can journal here, you can journal here, 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 here. Stick stuff that has journaling on it. So you can get super creative with them as well. So now you have two different versions with the exact same base. And remember that you can add more flips, more tucks, change the closures if you like. There's so many different variations that you can do with these bases right here. So all you need to do is get the base card ready, and from there the sky is the limit. So let's get right into learning how to make these. The first thing we're going to need is our base. I am using a piece of cardstock. This is just a standard A4 sheet, meaning 8.5 by 11, and an envelope. I have a bit of an odd size envelope. I just found it in our stash. It is 5.5 by 4.25, but you could use an A2 standard size envelope or whatever you have at hand. Of course, you can always adjust the project if your envelope is bigger or smaller. Today's tutorial is a continuation of a series that we're working on using this gorgeous graphic 45 Portrait of a Lady collection. We have originally, and that's where this whole idea started with, made a writing desk station. That desk station is going to house and going to hold all of the stationery pieces that we are making. So all of the cards and all of the journaling opportunities and pockets and tucks that we're going to be creating along the way in this series are all going to go into that stationery writing desk station. And I will link all of the videos down below as we progress through it. I will come back and add the additional links to the bottom in the description box. But as you can see, we still have quite a bit of this gorgeous collection left. To get started, we are going to grab our ivory cardstock piece of paper and cut it down to 4 1/8 by 11. So our original sheet was 8.5 by 11. We've left the length and all we've cut is the width down to 4 1/8. Next, we're going to need a scoreboard. If you do not have a scoreboard, you can also use a ruler and your ball stylus pen. We're going to score at 5.5, which is of course half of 11. So we're basically folding our card in half, our base. If you do not have either one of these tools, you can also just grab your paper and fold it in half. Next, we are going to put it back on our scoreboard and we're now going to score that half into another half. So only one of the halves we're going to score. So we're going to score at 2 3/4. Again, if you do not have a scoreboard, all you have to do is grab one of those halves and fold that in half. We will bring the new crease line and fold it forward. So now we have a peak and a valley, and it will look something like this. With our folds done, we can put away our scoreboard. And then we will burnish those folds really well using our bone folder. With our base complete, it is now time to move on to finding our focal point. Now, for this card, we're going to need a tall journaling card, so an image that goes vertical and not horizontal. A horizontal image could work, but they usually tend to be very wide, which takes away from the ability to see our background. So preferably, again, a vertical image versus a horizontal. Look through your collection of ephemera. Of course, if you're working with the same gorgeous paper line, super easy. There are plenty of choices. And what you want to do is also make it so that it's actually narrower and shorter than your card base. So just keep that in mind. Now we know that the base is 4 1/8 by 5 1/4 inches. So we are looking for an image or a combination of images like what I'm doing here that are going to give us plenty of room, top, bottom, left, and right. With our focal point or image selected, I have selected this gorgeous beauty. It is time to pull out the scraps, and we all have plenty of those, I am sure. So pull out your scraps, especially if you're working with this gorgeous collection. And it's always easier to work within a collection because all of the palette has already been obviously matched for us. So it makes it quite easy to just play around and interchange pieces, and they are all going to coordinate beautifully. The mats that we're going to need for our card base are going to be one for the front, one for the inside, one tall one for the back, and of course our journaling card focus point, which is going to be the closure for our brad. You can add a pocket as well, but you're going to need 1, 2, 3 mats to begin with, and a fourth one if you want to make a pocket plus our image. So that's what we're going to be starting with, only focusing in on the front at first. Now, rather than editing this portion of the video, I decided to leave it in but speed it up for you. And the reason for that is I wanted to take a second and talk about the selection of the coordinating papers, our mats for the card base. When we have a collection such as this where things come coordinated for us, it's great. It's super simple to just look through papers and everything is going to match. Not so much so when you're working with scraps. So what you want to do is you want to look at your image. That is your focal point. And here I have the wallpaper, so I'm going to mimic the wallpaper. I have the curtain, so I'm going to do that in the front. And then I have the gold from the frame, which I'm going to use as well. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to bring in those panels in that order, meaning wallpaper, curtain, and then floor. So that's the idea behind what you see in front of you and the selections that I've made. So now our mats are cut down to 4 inches wide by 2 5/8 tall. We will need 2 of those, one for the accordion front and one for the inside. And then our 4-inch wide by 5 1/4 for the back panel. So once again, we have our green wallpaper with our golden frame floor, followed by the pink to give us the illusion that those curtains are draping all the way down to the floor. The next thing we need to do is to reinforce our focal point, our journaling card. Now, even though Graphic 45 has nice thick paper, we are still going to need to back it up. I am going to use the other scratch piece of paper from the other half of the card. Of course, you could make 2 cards out of 1, but I am going to use that other remaining piece to double it up. So I'm going to fold it in half, thus creating a double piece of cardstock. So it's going to be nice and thick along with the journaling card combination. So it'll be 3 layers. I am using my tumble glue stick, and this is a fantastic glue stick. It is not your Elmer's glue stick. It is not your Walmart brand glue stick. It is an extra strong glue stick, which is not affected by humidity and other such factors. Plus, it prevents paper warping. Love this glue stick. I'll put the link down below for you guys for this, as well as anything else that I'm using in today's project, so that it's easy for you guys to go ahead and snag some for yourself if you haven't already used them or if you do not have them in your stash. Once we are done burnishing down our double cardstock, you can see how thick it actually is now. Plus, we're going to add that journaling card on top of it. Now, you need to decide whether you're going to leave a border around that image or not. If you are not going to leave a border around the image, then you can just adhere it straight onto the cardstock. However, if you are going to leave a border around it once you cut, then you want to go ahead and distress it beforehand. Now, in my case, I wasn't really sure, so I decided to distress first anyway, just in case. I am using the Graphic 45 Hybrid inks. Fantastic product. Basically the only ink you'll ever need. It is not only permanent, but it also can handle things like alcohol and Copic markers without running. So it is a great tool to have if you're not sure what techniques you're going to be doing next. If you're going to be doing some mixed media, some sprays, maybe some alcohol inks or alcohol spraying, or perhaps water markers, whatever it is, it will be able to handle it once it is dry. the next thing we'll do is to glue down our image. With our image adhered, we're going to burnish that down really well to make sure that all of those 3 layers are now fused into one. And now we need to decide to leave a border or not to. So I decided not to leave a border, but I will also show you here that you can choose to leave a border and kind of give that image a little bit more of an edge to it. And that's what I was talking about, whether you wanted to distress or not. So here you can see I've left a border, and on that other side I have not. Just wanted to show you an example. So now I'm going to go back in and fussy cut my image, making sure that I do not leave any borders around, and then I can re-distress or re-edge or re-ink my image. And now we have a really nice, strong, thick image to be able to use as a closure in the front. And speaking of closures, it is now time to start thinking about our closure. I am going to be using our chipboard from this collection. There's just so much to choose from. We have buttons and tags and scalloped edges. We also have these really pretty longer pieces, which is what I ended up selecting. But remember, you have choices here as well. If you have chipboard, by all means use it. It is the easiest way to get this project done. However, if you do not have any chipboard or a brad, remember in the beginning of the video we discussed that there are many options, including paperclip closures that'll work as well. The selection of our closure is done, as well as our image, which is our focal point in all of our panels, at least for the front part. So that means it is time to distress or to ink our edges. When we get to where we're going to be inking up our card base, it is important to remember to ink all sides, not only the front, but also the back, the sides, as well as any of the folds or creases. Don't forget to distress your chipboard pieces as well, especially after they have been reinforced. And it's also important to take a second and look at our chipboard, because the chipboard comes with these little connectors that you see here. You want to go ahead and snip those off if possible, just to give it a more clean aesthetic. With the inking done, it is time to start assembling our card by adhering our panels. Now, we're going to do, remember, only the front. We're going to work on only the front. We are not going to do anything with the back yet. So just give me a few seconds and then we're going to get to the back portion of this. Always remember that even though the video is sped up, you are more than welcome to pause at any time so you can catch up and then play it back when you are ready. You can also change the speed of the video as well. So remember, you are in full control of the tutorial. panels in place, it is time to start talking closure. I have chosen this very beautiful brad. However, I can tell you and remind you that it is quite hefty. So if you're going to be mailing a card, you want to keep that in mind, that you want it to fit inside of your envelope and to be able to go through the mail. We're going to center our brad by looking for 2 1/16 of an inch from either our left or our right side of the card base. If you want to use the color mat instead to center, remember our mat was 4 inches wide, the green piece in my case. So if you want to use that to center, you would be doing 2 inches from either the left or the right hand side. Now, how far down you need to come down from your pencil marking depends on the brad that you're using. The bigger the brad, the lower you'll have to come, of course. Now, I did learn something after I had made this card. I realized the easiest thing for me to have done was to have used my chipboard piece to simply mark down the hole where I wanted the placement to be for the brad. Here I'm showing you once again that we are coming in from our 0 ruler from either left or right at 2 1/16 inches or 2 inches from each side of those backing panels, the green panel in my case. But going back to the marking, I should have used a chipboard. In retrospect, I should have used a chipboard to have marked down my hole for how my brad and my closure was going to look. And that's why it's good to kind of make these boo-boos when, and it's not a boo-boo, it looked great afterwards, but it's great to learn from your first one and be able to share that during a tutorial, because then you guys can actually learn from, my mistakes. And so again, I would use the chipboard piece, put that down, use the hole in the chipboard piece to create my marking. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? In retrospect, it really was a no-brainer. I do not know why I didn't think about it until afterwards, but nevertheless, there it is, and I figure I would share that little bit of knowledge with you guys. Either way, it worked out great. All I had to do was make a minor adjustment and bring down my image a little bit lower than I had initially intended or planned for it to be, which is fine. As artists, we make adjustments all the time. With our brad and chipboard latch closure done, we can now adhere our image, and this is why I kind of wanted to leave the image until last as well, not only because it's our focal point and we do not want to get any glue or anything on it, but because also it gives me the ability to adjust. Now you notice that I marked it with a slight pencil, like a very light pencil mark on the back below where I needed the glue to go, just to make sure that we couldn't see that pencil mark from the other side of our card. And then we are going to glue that down to the front of our card. And as simple as that, we have the front of our card done, latch, closure, and all. Now it is time to flip it over, look at the back, because remember, we are going to have some pretty ugly prongs on the back of our card, which we need to go ahead and hide. Now we can do this several different ways. We can use a full panel to hide the prongs like I did on the first card, on this one right here. We can also decide to do pockets like I did on the other one, the one with the light bulbs. And of course you can do triple pockets, you can do flips, you can do all kinds. You can insert a notepad here on the back if you wanted to, just a little writing tablet kind of paper pad if you like. So there's all kinds of possibilities, but for the very basic model, which is what we're doing here on this tutorial, we are going to look through our scraps and we're going to piece it together. Great opportunity once again for pockets and all that. I had a piece of paper which was almost perfect, but you see the top and the bottom were just a little short. Well, guess what? The whole idea behind this project was to use scraps to begin with. So what I did was I decided that I was going to kind of just adhere different papers together to make it into one and give it a little bit of a more interesting look as well. Because sometimes all those little details is what adds interest. So don't be afraid to mix and match whatever papers you have and just create all kinds of borders and edges and use images, whatever it is that you need to cover that back and give it some interest as well. But remembering that the whole idea behind it is to cover those prongs up at the top. And this is why we wanted to leave that back panel for last. We want to make sure that we had completely finished all of our front, that the prongs were in, and now we can go ahead and hide them. And as simple as that, in under an hour, we have a great card to be able to mail out and send off if we want to. Of course, if you're mailing in, once again, I remind you, be mindful of your brad. Don't use something too bulky like I did if you plan to send it through the mail. Otherwise, you will be paying for a package rather than a letter or a greeting card when it comes to not being able to go through the sorter. The second thing is, remember to use all of your scraps. This is one of those projects that lends itself beautifully for just grabbing whatever scraps you have at hand and using one focal image. And speaking of scraps, it is time to clean up. So I am just going to tuck all that back into our handy dandy 13 by 14 zipper bag and call this project done. We certainly hope that you guys have enjoyed it. I hope that you will try one. I hope that you will make one. And if you do, won't you leave a comment down below? If you're going to be making something and adding additions to this and making it your very own, won't you also tag us? I love to see what you make. You can always use the hashtag spectrumartcreations. And of course, love to hear what you have enjoyed. If you're going to be using what paper line will you be using? Are you using the same one as I am? And don't forget, there's more to come in this series. We are going to continue making more beautiful stationery, card and journaling spots to go into our writing desk station. And that video hopefully will be up soon, and I will be able to link for you how to make the station itself. Thank you so much for joining us. Sending you a big warm hug from sunny Florida. Bye for now.